Have you ever pondered if Alexander the Great truly believed he was a god, or was this just a theatrical gesture to maintain his rule? In the 4th century before the Common Era, a child was born in Pella, the ancient capital of Macedonia. This child, named Alexander, was destined to shape the course of history. From a young age, Alexander was immersed in tales of heroism and divine providence, taught by the finest philosophers of the time, including the renowned Aristotle. His mother, Olympias, fervently professed that he was not the son of her husband, King Philip II, but instead the offspring of the mighty Zeus. This claim, though fantastical, was not entirely dismissed in a world where the line between mortals and gods was often blurred. In ancient Greece, the concept of divinity was not confined to celestial beings. It was a complex tapestry woven with threads of power, authority, and reverence, extending its reach to influential rulers and warriors. When Alexander ascended to the throne after the assassination of his father, he found himself enveloped in this very tapestry, his mother's words echoing in his mind, reinforcing his divine lineage. But was this divinity a genuine belief, or a tool wielded to consolidate his rule? The ancient world was a stage where power was often maintained through a blend of fear, respect, and awe. The notion of a ruler with divine blood was not only a potent symbol of authority, but also served to unite diverse populations under a single banner. Alexander, however, appeared to embrace this divine identity wholeheartedly. It was reflected in his audacious strategies, his fearless leadership, and his insatiable ambition. His belief in his own divinity was not merely an act performed for the public eye, but a conviction that shaped his perception of himself and the world around him. As Alexander embarked on his conquests, his belief in his own divinity would not only shape his strategies, but also his self-perception. With the belief of divinity propelling his ambition, Alexander set out on his conquests, leaving an indelible mark on history. In the wake of this divine conviction, Alexander embarked on an extraordinary campaign of conquest that would forever alter the course of history. His first significant victory was against the mighty Persian Empire. The Battle of Issus, a momentous clash, saw Alexander's forces, significantly outnumbered, emerge victorious against the Persians. This victory not only solidified his belief in his divine purpose, but also established him as a formidable force on the world stage. From Persia, Alexander moved his army to Egypt, where he was welcomed as a liberator. The Egyptians, weary of Persian rule, embraced Alexander, further fueling his godlike self-perception. Here he established the city of Alexandria, a testament to his grandeur and a symbol of his enduring legacy. The city, designed to be the beacon of Hellenistic culture, reflected Alexander's vision of blending Greek and local traditions, a characteristic feature of his rule. His next stop was the exotic lands of India, a territory uncharted by any Greek before him. His encounter with the Indian subcontinent was a unique challenge, but his belief in his divine status was so deeply ingrained that he viewed it as just another divine test. Throughout his conquests, Alexander adopted certain Persian royal customs, a move that was met with disapproval from his Greek compatriots. However, for Alexander, it was about more than just assimilation. He saw himself as a god king, a divine entity that transcended cultural and geographical boundaries. This belief influenced his actions and decisions, often blurring the lines between the audacious and the absurd. Yet, this divine self-belief, this godly self-perception that had guided him across continents and through countless battles, was about to face its greatest challenge. As Alexander ventured further into India, he encountered a formidable adversary, a king whose resilience and courage would eventually lead Alexander to question his own invincibility. Alexander's belief in his divinity seemed unshakable, until he met a formidable Indian king, Porus. In the dense forests of India, on the banks of the river Hydaspes, Alexander's belief in his divinity was challenged. The Battle of Hydaspes was a clash of titans, pitting the young Macedonian conqueror against the seasoned Indian king Porus. The tactics employed by both sides were a testament to their strategic genius. Alexander, known for his aggressive and direct approach, was met with a formidable opponent in Porus, who used the monsoon-swelled river and war elephants to his advantage. The Macedonian phalanx, the backbone of Alexander's invincible army, was pitted against these colossal beasts of war for the first time. This battle was unlike any Alexander had fought before. King Porus, standing tall on his chariot, led his men with a ferocious resistance that left the Macedonians reeling. The Indian king fought with the heart of a lion, even after being severely wounded. His resilience and courage were so striking that Alexander, upon meeting the defeated king, is said to have asked him how he wished to be treated. "Like a king," Porus reportedly responded, showcasing his indomitable spirit even in defeat. The Battle of Hydaspes was a victory for Alexander, but it was a victory that came at a heavy cost. The Macedonians suffered severe casualties, their morale was shaken, and the invincibility of their god-king was questioned. This battle marked a turning point in Alexander's campaign. It was not just a clash of two great armies, but a clash of two worldviews: the divine right of a god-king versus the human resilience of a warrior king. The aftermath of the battle saw Alexander's respect for Porus grow, leading him to restore Porus as a satrap or governor. This was a departure from his usual practice of establishing Macedonian rule. It was a tacit acknowledgement by Alexander of the valor of his opponent, and a sign of his evolving understanding of leadership and power. The Battle of Hydaspes was a victory for Alexander, but it also marked the beginning of a transformation. A transformation from a god-king, convinced of his divine right to conquer, to a more humble, mortal leader, aware of his own vulnerabilities and the indomitable spirit of humanity. Following the battle with Porus, Alexander began to question his divinity and his invincibility. This profound confrontation had shaken him to his core, causing a seismic shift in his perception of himself. The man who once saw himself as a deity, an invincible force, was now facing the harsh reality of his mortality. This wasn't a sudden transformation, rather it was a gradual evolution. The battle had left a deep imprint on Alexander's psyche. The man who had once reveled in the glory of victory now found himself reflecting on the cost. He began to ponder on the true price of his ambitions, the toll they took not only on him, but on those who stood in his path. A newfound humility began to seep into Alexander's character. He started treating his defeated enemies with a level of respect previously unseen. Instead of gloating over his victories, he began to honor the valor of those he had vanquished. In a surprising turn of events, he adopted some of the customs and traditions of the very people he had conquered. This was not the act of a god, but the act of a man who had come to understand the value of different cultures and the importance of mutual respect. But perhaps the most significant change was his growing doubt about his own divinity. The man who had once considered himself a god was now questioning his own immortality. He was realizing that he, like every other human being, was susceptible to pain, to defeat, to death. This transformation marked a pivotal point in Alexander's life. It was a period of introspection, a time when he re-evaluated his beliefs, his actions, and ultimately, his identity. He had started his journey as a young king, hungry for power and glory, convinced of his divine heritage. But now he was beginning to see himself as a man, as a mortal. Alexander, once a self-proclaimed god, had come to recognize his own mortality. His transformation was a testament to the fact that even the greatest of conquerors can learn humility, can learn to see beyond their own ego, and ultimately can learn to accept their own human limitations. From a self-proclaimed god to a humble warrior, Alexander's transformation was profound. This shift in understanding of his own mortality led to a significant change in his later years, both in his personal life and as a ruler. After his encounter with Porus, Alexander began to display a more considerate and thoughtful approach towards his subjects and his generals. The once impulsive and headstrong leader started to appreciate the value of counsel and deliberation. He no longer saw himself as a god among men, but rather a man among men, mortal and finite. Alexander's newfound humility also led to a change in his relationship with his soldiers. He no longer saw them merely as pawns in his grand chess game of conquest, but as companions in arms. He began to share in their hardships, participating in their struggles and celebrating their victories. He became more than a leader to them. He became a brother in arms. However, this transformation was not without its challenges. Alexander's newfound humility was not always well received by his generals, many of whom had grown accustomed to his prior godlike persona. They struggled to reconcile the image of the God King with the humble warrior that Alexander had become. This tension eventually led to a series of revolts and conspiracies, causing further strife within Alexander's empire. In the end, Alexander's life was cut short at the age of 32. The cause of his death remains a topic of debate among historians to this day. Some suggest he was poisoned, while others argue he succumbed to the injuries and illnesses accumulated over his years of conquest. Alexander's legacy, however, lives on. His transformation from a self-proclaimed god to a humble warrior has served as a lesson for countless leaders throughout history. His life serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of humility, even in the face of great power and success. In the end, Alexander the Great was not a god but a mortal man, a warrior who left an indelible mark on the world. His story is not just one of conquest and glory, but one of transformation, humility, and human understanding.